Gino's East is one of Chicago's most famous deep dish pizza places. They've been open since 1966. And there are still some people who don't realize Gino's East is here in LA now too. And let me tell you, it feels like you're in Chicago when you're in there. I know, I'm in there a lot. And during the week, Gino's has a happy hour from 3 to 6, Monday through Thursday. Get $5 drinks like Stella and Dark Horse Chardonnay. Also, $6 eats like spinach artichoke dip, garlic breadsticks, and a jumbo bowl of fries. There's so much great stuff on the menu. I always have a difficult time deciding what to order at Gino's. My go-to is probably the tavern pizza, cheese and sausage. You know what? Everything is my go-to there. Deep dish, the Italian beef, you name it. Everything on that menu is fantastic. Gino's East of Chicago and Los Angeles was named Best Pizza in the Southland by LA Times readers 2 years in a row. It's more than just a Chicago restaurant. It's one of the best restaurants in LA. Check out the friendly confines of Gino's East LA today on the corner of Coldwater Canyon and Riverside Drive, just off the 101. See you there.
Sit back and relax. It's time for peanuts, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks.
Hey, how's it going? I'm your host, Jeff Santo, and I'm here with my wife, Christie.
Hello, hello.
So today, I'm thinking, we're watching that show, Dark Matter.
On
right?
Apple.
On
Yeah.
Apple, right?
Wow.
And I'm thinking of the Cubs. I'm thinking, is there another gate that we missed? Did we get the bad gate that we went into the bad world?
Well, you can go a million miles in that if a woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah, but I'm thinking we're in the lost world. There's got to be a world where this didn't happen, and this whole team is just imploding.
Maybe there's a world where the Cubs are doing really great, and
maybe there's a door that you go through, and we go back to 1969. They win that year. They win in 2003. And then followed up with 2016. Oh, no, 84. Forgot 84. They win in 84 also. Yeah.
And someone else mentioned to me the 89.
89 was a good team. Good team, but they got beat by the Giants. But Mark Grace had Will Clark and Mark Grace had an unbelievable series that year. That was the earthquake year. You experienced that earthquake out there.
That's right. Yeah.
That was 1989
we were watching the World Series, and all of a sudden, the earthquake happened. My dad was on the freeway at the time, and he said it was like an ocean.
Yeah.
The rolling of the concrete.
Right. Yeah. So that was the year. Yeah. But this year looks like, boy, we're going to be in for a long, hot summer.
Dog days.
Dog days are coming early. I don't know. I want to be optimistic and say, hey, you never know, but. I don't know, man. The starting pitching being so good, and just seeing that no one can hit consistently, and I don't know what that's from. Let's try and hope that it changes some way. But I just say go for it now. Just start bring some people up, try some new things out.
Mm-hmm.
You all right?
Stop looking at the analytics.
Stop, right? Every time it's the
93 pitches, 93 pitches.
93, alarm bells.
God forbid, he can't go 95,
No, he's got a shutout
96.
going. No, he's got a no-hitter. 93, we're on 100, take him out. No, he's got a no-hitter. He's got a perfect game. Take him out. Oh, great. He just killed everything that I love about baseball.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, the Cubs, the 84 Cubs, are going to be at Wrigley Field this Saturday,
Woohoo.
June 22nd, right? And at night, Onesti Entertainment, one of our sponsors, is having the 84 Cubs party at the Des Plaines Historic Theater. You got to get the tickets, 5:30 p.m. Go to oshows.com, oshows.com. Bobby Biittner, Bobby D's going to be there. Leon Durham, Ron Say, Jody Davis, autograph photos, Q&A. I mean, Ron Onesti puts on the greatest parties. So anyone in Chicago follows that. He has 2 theaters, probably more, the Arcadia, the Des Plaines. So all you 84 fans, and I know there's a ton of them in Chicago, go out.
You gotta go.
Yeah, check it out. It's going to be a great time. And then you got Rhinos Day on Sunday with the statue.
Yeah.
So it's a big 84 weekend. And to Rhino, man, also get those Rhino Strong shirts at
Wrigleyville Sports.
Wrigleyville Sports.
Use code Santo10 at checkout.
There you go.
Us.
So, wish I was in town, man. I'd be at that Des Plaines Historic Theater, too. It's a really cool theater, man.
I wish we were there.
Yeah. So, anyway, also want to talk about Willie Mays.
Yes.
Passed away. The greatest ball player ever. 5-tool ball player.
What a legend.
Big time. And I was fortunate to interview him in This Old Cub. Pretty amazing doing that and having Willie speak about my dad, but, one of the greatest ball players ever. I mean, is the greatest ball player ever. I think, if you think about it, you got Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, all those guys, but when baseball integrated, Willie was the guy that really took over, man. And he did everything.
He had 12 gold gloves.
12 gold gloves.
And that was, the gold glove was only began 6 years into his career. So just imagine. Yeah,
he could have had 18 probably. And how many All-Star teams? 24 All-Star appearances. Just the longevity.
600 something home runs.
He could do it all. He could run. He could throw. He could hit for power, for average. And he could field. There was no one better out there in center. I mean, that one great catch he made at the Polo Grounds, we've all seen it in the highlight reel. But
the basket catch.
Yeah, but he was the best, man. And it's just, that generation, most of them are going, and the best just went. So rest in peace, Willie Mays.
Tip your cap to Willie Mays.
All right, so moving on, I do want to talk about my special guest and my special guest today. It's so cool. We have similar paths. Like, we're both from Midwest guys, around the same age. Eventually found our way out west to making movies. We self-taught as screenwriters, and literally our path to Hollywood was so similar. But when we got to Hollywood, they were much different inside Hollywood. Our paths. And so I can't wait to talk to him. He's just a dear friend, Mike Skelton. So can't wait for you to hear that conversation. And also our crackerjack call, is Bobby Biittner, Larry Biittner's son. So we go back and talk. It's still tough for him because his father didn't pass. It wasn't too long ago they passed away. And so, it's always tough to, but, we talked about it and went there and, again, similar childhoods, right?
And you surprised him, too.
Yeah, I did surprise him, yeah. Definitely. But he, similar childhoods, obviously, right? Growing up, born into baseball. So I just wanted to get his perspective on things, and it's a cool conversation. So enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
This podcast is brought to you by Bernie's Tap and Grill. It's family-owned and operated since 1954. Located across from Wrigley Field on Clark and Waveland. My dad hit a few home runs on the Waveland Avenue, and Bernie's was my dad's favorite place to go. It's got delicious food, 4 full-service bars, an awesome beer garden, a sidewalk patio cafe, and a cool upstairs area. It's the place I've always met my friends at before and after games. Go on by and tell Linda Dillman Jeff Santos sent you. Bernie's Tap and Grill, where you go when you go to Wrigley. Next, I want to talk to you about Wrigleyville Sports. If you've been to Wrigley Field in the last 30 years, you know who I'm talking about. On the corner of Addison and Sheffield, the green and white awning that beckons you to buy Cubs gear and souvenirs. Here's some history for you. This is a small, family-owned business that has been around since 1990. They're celebrating their 34th anniversary this year, and 3 generations of Karlstrom family have worked there. Wow, gotta love that. You know what else I love? They have an authentic 1969 Ron Santo Cubs jersey. And check this out. They're giving our listeners a special discount. Use the code SANTO10 at checkout and get 10% off your order. Shop online or in the store. They get new arrivals daily from brands you know and love like New Era, Obvious Shirts, and more. They have a wide selection of jerseys from iconic players like my dad to custom jerseys with their very own name. And free shipping on orders of $60 or more. And they sell more than just Cubs merch. Get gear from all your favorite teams, including the Bears, Blackhawks, Bulls, and even the White Sox. Hey, we're one family. We're Chicago. Go to WrigleyvilleSports.com and use Santo10 at the checkout. Go get your dad a Ron Santo jersey with using Santo10 at the checkout. Wrigleyville Sports, for the city, for the fans. My special guest is a kindred spirit of mine. We had similar paths to Hollywood. His from Indiana, mine from Chicago. We both were inspired by working on the baseball film 8 Men Out. Although we didn't know each other then, we probably walked right past each other on the set and wouldn't meet until a decade later out in Los Angeles when he was working at New Line Cinema and I just finished my first film, Liar's Poker. We became fast friends, and he introduced me to a group of inspiring filmmakers that became our community. He's a prolific screenwriter, selling over a dozen scripts from inside the studio system while I was making movies outside of it. But we were connected through it all and still are today. My dear friend, Mike Skelton. Hey, buddy, great to have you on the show, man.
Oh, man, that was, wow. Thank you for that introduction. That was pretty cool.
Hey, man. Well, it's true, brother. It's how I feel, man, about you. And, you know, I got to say this. You've been to every film I do and screen, you always were there, man. You came to every one of them, man, and you were the first one. We'll get into that later, that you know, got Liar's Poker rolling for me, and just how we met was really cool. I got to ask you, though, buddy, when you were a kid back in Indiana, what was the one movie that kind of like inspired you to want to be part of the process of making movies? Do you remember any one movie as a kid that you're like, oh my God?
Oh my God, yeah, that's easy. The Poseidon Adventure, 1972.
Oh my God! I
I'm gonna
like 9 times as a kid.
Well, I'm gonna age myself. That came out in 1972. My dad took me to see that in the theaters when it first came out. And man, I was so spellbound by that film. To this day, I have to watch it every New Year's Eve because, you know, the disaster happened on New Year's Eve. So that's like my little tradition. But that movie, oh yeah, I watch it every New Year's Eve. Yeah, that movie did it for me, man. It still continues to inspire me. You know, the movie is, you know, people, they watch it, you know, because it's like this it is a terrific disaster movie, but, you know, there's a lot going on in that movie in terms of characters and stuff. And I learned a lot on writing characters from that movie, believe it or not. I mean, it wasn't just a disaster movie for me. Like, you really cared about those people on that ship. And I just, you know, that's credit to Sterling Stillifant and Wendell Mays, who wrote the script. Those guys were very in tune with character and story, and it was just a shame it didn't get nominated for an Oscar. But it went on to, I think, win 2, but not for writing or anything. But it was just a great movie, man. And you know, to this day, I still take inspiration from it.
Yeah, no, well, I remember we were in spring training. I think it came out because we saw it, I think, in 72 as spring training. So I would have been, 9 years old. And I remember going to that. And I just mesmerized by it, too. You know, just the going underwater, you know, having to survive that underwater swim they had to do.
Exactly, man. And the practical special effects at the time, there was no CGI back then. So I don't know how they did all of that, but it was just amazing for the time, the way they pulled that off, you know. So, yeah, this is, you know, I tell you, man, this, you know, filmmakers back then, you know, I don't know if filmmakers today have gotten a little lazy because of CGI, but back then you had to do what you could do, you know, and it was just how they pulled that off was still amazing to me.
What a set, too, right? And Hackman was so good in that movie, and Shirley Winters, oh, man. And it's just everything about that film. You're right. And didn't Hackman jump on the steam thing? They had to turn the latch at the end, right, hanging from that thing? Was that him?
I don't think. Well, Gene Hackman's character at the end, you know. He had to. You know, he had to. You know, and what I loved about that movie too was he was just this rebellious minister, you know, and you know, and there are ministers like that you know they kind of, you know, they kind of blame God for everything, and they, like when things happen, and they think they can do things on their own, and they don't need God. So his character is kind of like, when I was that young watching that guy on screen, I was like, this is kind of strange, because I've never seen a character like that before.
Right. Yeah, he was cool. Yeah, he's straight at you too. Yeah. He was no nonsense, right? He gave
no nonsense, and and I love the way he took those people and saved them, and then sacrificed himself at the end. There's just a lot going on, man, and everything they did in that movie was just great.
To have to actually go, from you're down low, man. You had to go deep and come back up. Something about that too. Some symbolism about that, right? But yeah, a lot of cool stuff. You look back now that you got me going on it. Yeah, I'm like, holy cow, I got to go watch this again. It's been so long, but I'm gonna do it. And a great song though, at her playing that sad song on the piano, and then someone got killed by that piano.
That was the piano comes down. I don't think it actually hit anybody, but when the boat turns over, there's a lot of chaos. But the piano just sort of falls. I don't think it hit anybody, but
I remember someone. Man, maybe that's another movie. Who knows?
But if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. Yeah,
great pick. Hey, when you grew up, how many were in your family? How many kids, siblings?
Oh, okay. Well, there's oh my God, there was 7 of us, and yes, there was 7 of us, including I'm including stepbrothers and stuff in that. But and then since then I've lost a few. So, but growing up in Indiana, I've always had a fascination with movies, even when I was like 5 or 6. What I used to do, and I used to trip my parents out. Like I have a thing for drive-ins.
Oh yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I just love the structures. Yeah. I love the structures of them. I love to pass them on the street. Of course, they've not too many of them that exist anymore. No. But at the time, Indiana had like 100, man. And my thing, and our thing was like going to the drive-in. Like I think we'd go every weekend.
That's awesome.
And my parents, they never needed to go to the newspaper to find out what was playing, because I knew and I memorized the entire theatrics, whether it was the theater section, drive-in section. I memorized everything. So
would you walk
they would
down
just come
to the drive-in? You would see it as you passed by? Is that where you?
Oh, no. I mean, no, I meant like from the newspaper. Like, there was a theater section. And I'd memorize it. And they would just come to me like, Mikey, what's playing this weekend? They would never have to go to and I could tell them who was in it. I could tell who was in the movie, who wrote the movie, who directed the movie. I was strange, man. And, I just.
I love it. Man. I love the drive. There's something, you're right. When you even drive past one of those, you felt like, oh, man, how cool is that? And then, when we didn't really go as a family to those things, which is cool. I love that concept of it, because you guys had so many in Indiana. It's not like we had a few sprinkled out, in where we live. Yeah. But we would go, definitely when we started driving and put people in the trunk and, sneak into those things. It was great. It was a good time, Just, the whole feeling about that. The drive. Wow. So that does make sense.
My dad was kind of quirky. Like he took, now keep in mind, this is because I'm aging myself again, but I saw the first run of.
We're the same age. You're not with who? It doesn't matter. I'm careful. I'm glad I'm old now. Shit.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, shit. Well, we've been through it now, man. We look back, we got some great memories. So
my dad actually, the very first movie I remember going to the drive-in thing was Night of the Living Dead, and now I'm like 6 years old, and I'm traumatized. Because my father was pretty quirky. Like he didn't give a damn if it was how the movie was going to affect us. We just went to the drive-in, and that movie just, man, I was messed up for like months after seeing that movie.
Man, I got to sit. You know what got me was the 101 Dalmatians when I was a kid. I got scared of what's her name, the lady.
Cruella.
Cruella scared the crap out of me. Seriously. See what I'm talking about, Kindred Spirits? Absolutely. Yours was the zombies. Mine was Cruella.
The zombies. The flesh-eating zombies.
Right. All those drive-ins, too, they always had the horror films, right? Like, God, so many of them were playing there. God, there was one, the morgue guy. He was a mortician. Forgot what that one was. It was creepy as hell. You're right. And classics played there too. But yeah, that's.
Well,
awesome,
what was cool too, man. In terms of independent film, there was the studio movies that obviously came out with Doris Day and all that stuff. But then there was always movies like Night of the Living Dead that were released independently and played. So independent film goes way back. Back.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure does.
Goes way back.
Does. So with you're saying basically with the horror film, probably.
Yeah,
right?
The horror films mainly. Yeah. I think, but I do remember and reading about it later that there was a movie called Billy Jack with Tom Laughlin.
Billy Jack, I loved Billy Jack.
And I read an article about Billy Jack, and we went to see that too. But that was an independent film. That was a movie.
Yeah,
Tom Laughlin went to city to get theaters to play because it wasn't backed by a studio. So that's one of the first really indie movies I really remember seeing.
Yeah, I bet you that was probably the first one too. And then you had the John Cassavetes movies, a little more adult, obviously, right? So we weren't running.
Right.
Billy Jack was kind of maybe more on our screen, but that's great, brother. Now, what number were you in the 7?
Oh, I was number 5.
Okay.
I was kind of in the middle. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I was kind of in the middle there.
Stuff, man. Well, now we get into we both meet at an Indianapolis baseball stadium. That's cool, man, and we didn't even know that we were there. Let's talk about that. We both were in 8 Men Out, or at least on a set. You weren't in the film, but you were working on the film.
I was working on the film. I initially got hired as a PA on that movie because I had just did a bunch of stuff with the film commission. They were shooting a lot of movies there at the time, League of Their Own and what else? Hoosiers and Rudy, and I got to work on those movies.
All shot in Indiana.
All shot in Indiana. 8 Men Out. Start as I got hired as a PA, and then I ended up being Charlie Sheen's assistant. Don't even ask me how that happened. Right. So I was I segued into that. So I was doing a lot of stuff for Charlie at the time, and working on this, not really working on the set so much anymore, but I started off doing errands and things like that, and Charlie took a liking to me for some reason, and then I ended up, working for him at the remainder of the shoot, and then you told me you were working on it. I don't think I knew you at the time, but later on we were kind of laughing about that.
No, we met in L.A., which is crazy because he liked you because you're a likable guy. So and you're funny as hell. So I could just imagine how that went down. Now, what year was that? Was that 88? That movie?
That was no, that was 87 actually.
87. Wow, man. And you said you worked on films before that, so you did A League of Their Own before that?
No, League of Their Own, that was after. Hoosiers and Rudy. Hoosiers and Rudy were before.
Gotcha.
And, because they were, the film commission at the time was trying to, they were trying to lure Hollywood there. And,
right.
So I kind of started off doing that sort of thing. But, and then, then 8 Men Out came along. Mm-hmm.
Where'd you grow up in Indiana?
I grew up in Indianapolis.
Okay, so that's right. So that's where what was the baseball field that was shot at? That was right in Indianapolis, right?
That was Bush Stadium.
Right.
Bush Stadium. I forget the name of that street now, but it was well known. The Indians played Indianapolis Indians played there a lot, and the baseball team. And so
that was a cool. That was a cool park, man. I remember, and those uniforms were because I played for the St. Louis Browns, but we must have passed each other a bunch of times because I got a really cool shot with Charlie. So you must have been right around
man,
there.
I was kind of right there in the midst of things because I got to hang out with. I'm sure you got to hang out with these guys too because you were doing the training. You were kind of helping them.
Well, that was John Cusack. So yeah, I did that in Chicago though. So John's Yeah, I met him at Randy Huntley's fantasy camp at Wrigley Field, and then I started working when he needed help, and then I got my dad involved. We went to this park, outside of Evanston, Illinois, and then when he started the movie, he basically said, "Come on down. I'll get you a part. I'll get you on one of the teams." And so that's when I drove down there, got involved. So
and that was, and I was hanging around Cusack too, and Christopher Lloyd and D.B. Sweeney, and I forget Michael Rooker. That was one of his first movies he ever did.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, and he became that was one of his first movies. A great cast, and John Sayles, of course, right?
John Sayles was like one of my heroes at the time. So that was really fascinating to get to see him. But the reason I ended up being Charlie's assistant was because at the time I was a PA, but I was hanging around the set a lot. And, and talking to the actors. And at some point, they all had me eat with them at the, during lunch and stuff, which you weren't supposed to do. That was just for the actors. But, they were pulling me, hey, come sit with us. And the unit production manager at the time, this lady, her name was Sid, and she hated that. And she hated the fact that I was sitting with them, the stars, and eating with them. And it was nothing I was doing. They were making me do that. Oh no, you come sit with us, And so she got really, really upset about that. And she came up to me at some point and she said, "Look, and I wasn't getting paid, by the way, to work on the movie."
Really?
Yeah, no, not at all. And she said, "Well, we're gonna have to fire you." I'm like, "Well, I'm not getting paid." And she's like, "Well, I don't appreciate the fact that you're eating with the stars and the celebrities and things like that." So I just said, "Okay, no problem, not a big deal." And I started to leave the set, and I went over to Charlie to say goodbye, just to say goodbye. But at this point, Charlie was calling my house, and saying hi to my mom and things like that. So we established a connection there.
Right.
So I just went over there to say goodbye to him. And he said, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "Well, Sid ordered me off the set. She kind of basically fired me." And he said, "Well, why?" I said, "Well, because she don't like the idea that, you guys, were gracious enough to have me eat with you, and that's kind of pissing her off." He said, "Hold on a second. You're not going anywhere." And he walks over to her, and I'm watching all this go down. And he walks over to her, and I don't know what was said, really, but the next thing I know, he comes back over to me. He goes, "Well, you're working for me now."
Oh, man. Wow.
And I'm like, "What?" He said, "You're working for me. So don't worry about her no more. She ain't got nothing to do with this. You're going to be my assistant on the set, so don't worry about it." So that's how that happened.
Oh,
it's because, she tried to fire me. I'm like, "Well, I'm not even getting paid."
That's so funny, man. And you, when did you come out to Hollywood? When did you come out to L.A.?
Okay, well, the reason I even came out to Hollywood is because I also kind of scored pretty, like a connection with the producers, who were Midge. Oh, what was her name? Midge. I want to say Midge Stanford. And I forget the other lady. They were producing partners.
Okay.
And so I had a script I had written, and I gave it to them while we were working on the movie. And they actually read it. I was shocked because they came back to me a couple of days later. They said, "Look, we read your script. It's nothing that, we're not interested in moving forward with it, but we see that you have a lot of potential, And she said, "You should come out to Hollywood, And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Well, okay. And then if I come to Hollywood, then what?" And she's like, "Well, when you come out to Hollywood, you look us up, and maybe we can help you." I'm like, "Okay." And the other producer was Barbara Boyle. I remember her name now. Barbara Boyle. And Barbara she was working with Hemdale and Orion Pictures at the time. And so she was, she kind of oversaw Platoon, and she did Make One for John Sayles. And so, I kind of made these connections, networking a little bit. So, and I'm like, okay, when I do go out to Hollywood, I'll look them up. So about 96, 10 years
96.
later.
Okay.
Yeah, about 1996, about 10 years later.
You waited like 9 years. Yeah, 9 years later. Wow.
Yeah. And I waited 9 years later, and I was working for the Butler Police Department at the time. I was in law enforcement, and I was doing emergency dispatch for them and IU too. And so I was writing scripts, all this time too, and nothing was really happening for me.
Just in Indiana, though, you're writing scripts. Like, were you studying how to write scripts? Are you getting the books?
I got a couple of books, but I basically self-taught myself. And I bought a couple of books, Field, which everybody buys that damn book. And, it's a good book if you want to know the mechanics, but it's not really. Yeah. The only problem I got with those books, Field books and stuff, is that they don't teach you how to be authentic. They don't teach you how to be your own voice. It sort of puts you in a box where you're mechanical like everybody else. So, but I fortunately got a couple of Shane Black screenplays and learned a lot from that guy. He wrote Lethal Weapon and
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and he had a really unique
style.
Yeah. He had a really unique style, unique voice, and he was selling scripts like crazy. And I know why, because he didn't traditionally write scripts the way normal people did. Like, he would write scripts the way, like, if you took me to lunch and you told me about your script, it was just so, the way he wrote was very personal. Like, it was very, it wasn't like you were reading a script. It was almost like somebody just telling you about the story, because the way he spoke. He would say stuff like, we opened in Los Angeles, where you can smell the homeless and they stink and you can kind of smell. That's the kind of way he wrote.
Right. Yeah.
I said, wow,
He had his own little narrative in there, with the description, which I love. Yeah.
Yeah. So I sort of took, I took the cue on that and started developing my writing a little bit like that. Not just like that, but I sort of incorporated a lot of, my style. That's how I came up with the way I write, and I kind of, and these books don't really teach you that. So.
Hail Auctions is Chicago's premier partner for rocking your fundraising goals. If your organization is looking for rockstar solutions to raise big money to support your amazing mission, you need Hail Auctions. Whether it's providing a superstar MC or a killer licensed auctioneer to help plan your amazing event, they strategize everything from one-of-a-kind auction items to big-time sponsorship acquisitions. In Chicago, or anywhere in the U.S., if you want to maximize your fundraising, go to hailauctions.com and be sure to say Santos sent you for a complimentary consultation.
Yeah, Santos sent you. Ron Jr. or myself, Jeff. We've known Chris for quite some time now, and we vouch for him 100%. Chris is a go-get-it-done type of guy, and he's fun too. So you'll have a good time raising money for worthy causes. Go get it done with Chris, now.
The consultation is 100% free when you mention the podcast. So what are you waiting for? Hail Auctions is where money raised is love saved.
You got that right.
So I was kind of doing that, and I was writing along the way. And so when I decided to quit the police department, I moved out to California, and with nothing really. Like, I had a buddy of mine that was living out here, but really all I had was a couple bucks in my pocket, and I actually lived in my car for a little bit until I found somebody would let me move in with them, because it was kind of like sticker shock when I got out here, because the rents and stuff were so high. I'm like, I'm never going to survive this because I can't afford to. To live in California. But luckily, a buddy of mine named Rich Morey, he allowed me to move in with him, so that kind of helped me with that.
Wow, buddy. So you go out in 96. Now, I did the self-taught thing, too. Exactly. To Field book after 8 Men Out, that's when John Sayles gave me the script 8 Men Out, so I started studying that. So similar kind of stuff me and you had, right, of how we got into business. Because we're doing stuff, back where we live, not even knowing, is this stuff going to work? Are we on the right track?
Well, you got to remember something, too, man, that this was Indiana. Okay, there was nothing. Chicago's a lot more progressive, but Indiana had nothing, absolutely nothing. no resources, no anything. Like nobody was doing that shit. And so when I tried to write, I went to a couple of people that were sort of, I call them scam artists, because they were kind of taking advantage of the fact that nobody in Indiana knew anything. So they were trying to teach screenwriting. And so I paid for a couple of classes, but then I realized that they're not even teaching the correct format on stuff. So I just knew right then that they didn't know what they were doing. So, so I just grabbed some screenplays and taught myself, basically.
That's awesome, man. And then we met each other, cross paths when I did Liar's Poker. You were working at New Line Cinema. You got a job there. And we got to say that was probably around 98 when a guy at New Line Cinema, Michael Carafa, who was the head of the video side, had my movie and he gave it to you, which I had no idea. And then I get a call from you. I don't know what it was. You just said, "Hey, man, I liked your movie. You know, let's get some lunch." I'm thinking, "Oh, shit."
Yeah, that was some. Was it simpatico a little bit the way that happened?
Yeah.
I started off when I got to California. I did a couple of internships. One for Wendy Feinerman and Joe Silver. They were pretty big producers at the time. And then I ended up working for Lloyd Sagan, who had a deal with New Line Cinema. So, I started doing internships with him, wasn't getting paid. And I kind of did that for a year. And with the goal in mind to try to get on at New Line, because before I even moved out there, I was in communications with this lady named Tina No, and she was in human resources at New Line. So she was just, I was kind of keeping in contact with her and telling her I was going to move out there. And she was kind of like, yeah. Like she probably hears this from like 50 people a day, And, but I did move out there and contacted her. And so she's the one that actually hooked me up with the internship with Lloyd. So I did all of that and worked for him for a year. And Lloyd was producing movies for New Line. He did The Bachelor and another movie called Bones with Snoop Dogg. And so he was kind of doing movies under his deal there. And but at the same time, I was answering his phone. And man, I got to tell you, I got to meet, or a lot of people came to see him to do generals. And at the time, Michael McQuarrie came in, and that's the guy that did Usual Suspects and wrote. He's gone on to write Mission Impossible and direct those movies. But at the time, he was just starting out, and the only movie he had under his belt was The Usual Suspects. So I knew who he was before he came in, and I was so damn excited, and actually got to talk to him a good 20 minutes before Lloyd called him into the office. And so we just sort of, he was just telling me about the business and his experience, because he was brand new too. Wow. And I just thought that was so cool. And, just people just like that I got to talk. Eric Schaefer was another guy. Eric did, his movie, My Life's in Turnaround, had just won, I think, Sundance or something. So Lloyd was really good friends with him. So he had come in. But people like this that were just starting out early in their careers, it was just really interesting to talk to them, because I'm new. They're sort of new, but I'm kind of getting some advice from them. And when I tell you, man, when I get advice from people, I really try to work that advice into my life, because, they're actually doing it, and they're, and so I find those advices like really invaluable to me.
Yep.
And so Lloyd ended up helping me get an internship at New Line, so that sort of came into play. And from there, I met our boy, Chris Brinker, which a lot of people know as CB in the Boondock Saints world. Right. And our desk was right next to each other. He was a development assistant, but I was in HR. I was working as an HR assistant, and I was working in the mailroom. So my desk was right next to his. So I got to hear that whole thing about, the Boondock Saints going down as it was happening. And the whole thing, when Troy got the deal with Troy Duffy got the deal with Miramax. And so I'm listening to all this stuff as it's happening. And it was just all really fascinating. and I'm writing scripts too, and I let Chris read several of those. So he decided that he wanted to help me try to sell my scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And so while he was working that stuff, Michael Carafa, who's I ended up moving up to home video, and Michael was my boss. And he starts, me and him really hit it off because we sort of like the same kind of movies and stuff. And I actually was trying to get the Boondock Saints sold at New Line, and Michael watched it and really liked it. And he said, "Well, listen," because he knew I had made some contacts by this time. And he said, "Look, a friend of mine out of Chicago named Jeff Santo, his father was, Ron Santo and stuff, and I knew the baseball player, of course. And he said, he's a film director." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, right. I've heard this before, right? Everybody's a film director, But he said, his movie's really good, and would you mind watching it?" So I watched it during lunch, in my office and stuff, and I got to tell you, man, I was really impressed. Because I've seen movies that, people try to sell projects to New Line for home video acquisition, and they're just not up to par. They're just, to me, I just never found them. The quality wasn't there, or the acting was bad, or, and so, but I was really amazed and impressed by what you did, and you had stars in your movie. I'm like, who gets that? How did that happen? And because it was an independent movie, but it didn't feel like an independent movie. And so I watched it. And I was just like, "Hey, man, whoever this guy is, he did a great job." And so he gave me your number, and I called you, and we sort of hit it off over the phone. And
yep. And
I was able to get your movie to Chris. Chris watched it, and Boondock Saints was just getting. I think they were just doing negotiations on the deal at Blockbuster at the time or something.
Yeah.
And so they knew the guy that owned Blockbuster, and so they showed him your movie, and that's how that happened.
Yeah, it was amazing. And you had me when we met. I'm like, they're like, we talked about the stuff we did and how you got to LA, and we just hit it off. You're just one of those kind of guys, man. You got this personality. I'm surprised, probably why you were sitting at the stars tables, that you should, he's a potential actor here to go forward, man.
Oh, man, I appreciate
that personality, but man,
but honestly, Jeff, that was so innocent. Like that whole thing was really innocent. I wasn't even looking for that. And next thing I know, they're like invited me. So I wasn't even expecting that. That was like a really pleasant surprise, but at the same time, it got me in a lot of trouble.
No doubt. But you had that personality, man, that just people love, man. You made people laugh. You were quick on just so many things. And just, you're right. We hit it off right away. And I remember you saying, "Hey, man, Troy Duffy, who I know, my buddy, and Chris Brinker, they got a movie that they're screening, New Line screening over at Technicolor, and you had me go to this private screening." And I remember going to it, and there was like 3 people, watching this, and myself, and, they were checking out whether they're going to buy it or not. And I'm like, "Dude, this movie's fucking kick ass. I love to meet this guy," right? And then that's when we all you brought me over to Sloan's where they hung out, and then that's how we all got together, and from there, we all became, part of the journey for the next, 10 years, right? And more than that. I mean, and quite a time, man. It's so different today, but the one thing that you had, man, and you out of the whole bunch, you were the only one that was selling scripts. How many scripts did you sell?
You mean overall?
Yeah, overall.
Well, I ended up. But when I met you, I had sold 2.
That's right.
But overall, it was like 12 originals that I sold to the studios and networks.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, and
quite
but I think the reason you and I connected too, man, is because I think we had that Midwest thing happening.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You and I weren't jaded like a lot of people were in Hollywood because, when we got here, we had high hopes for ourselves, and so that jaded, that wasn't in our DNA at the time. It had seeped into me a little bit. since I've been here over 25 years. I'm a little jaded, I have to admit, but at the time, though, it was really fun, and we had our own little clique, we had our own little community with Chris and Troy and the whole. I sort of give credit to the whole Boondock thing for that, but but that was fun. That was a very fun period in my life, and and I thank that whole experience for keeping me going because and there was a lot of times in the 27, 28 years I've been out here, I wanted to like pack things up and go back home. And, I said, look, I came out here to do what I wanted to do. And, I had no shame in that. I got to sell some projects and stuff. So I'm good, and I was just ready to go back. But, just something kept me out here. And just that Indiana, Midwest, Chicago drive I think we both have that keeps us going, keeps pushing us, because the passion's there. Mm-hmm.
The totally, and I think, like you said, that time was like we were all working really hard. We were living kind of hard, and we had our ups and downs. We had our fights, with people in the group, and it's just the way that goes, right? Because you're all trying to do something, and you're rooting each other on, but at the same time that you can get sick of each other at certain points, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
But it was beautiful because we were actually going for stuff. You know what I mean? We came from places in just a different world from where you came from and my world too, and it was just great to be with like-minded people, jumping off a ledge like you did, It's like, hey, they took the risk too. There was something about that meant a lot. You know what I mean? To me, that I'm like, oh man, I'm in a place where I'm finding my own identity and I'm working hard, and I just loved all that, man. Yeah, that was a beautiful time.
Too, our trajectories were a little different because I came through the studio system,
right?
And you went through that indie world, which I gotta say is more admirable to me because you fought to get your stuff done. Where it was a little easier for me to, because it's the studio, and they've got money and blah, 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 blah. But what you did, I find more admirable because the way you did it, because you had a fight to get your projects done. And to me, you had that warrior spirit, which I don't have. I don't have that. I never could have survived in that world. I never could have done that, what you did. Never could have done. No, I'm being honest. I never could have done that because I need things easy. And you fought to get your projects done. And that to me, I got, my hat goes off to you, man, because you managed to do 5 or 6 movies and you raised the money for them. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to save my life.
Well, man, I tell you, though, but a lot of people, what you did do, though, to come out to Hollywood that quick and then to get an internship and to get into the system and then to sell within the system. Not too many people did that either, bud. So, I mean, you're not going to yourself that much. I mean, seriously, that's a lot of credit because people weren't doing that. They were trying to, right? They were trying to, but somehow you found your way there at New Line and you made that kind of like your home base and 12 scripts. Come on, man. I mean, so that is like, they're just different kind of journeys, right? But we came out to the same place. Either way is very difficult, no matter what. You know what I mean? What you did, that's difficult. You know that, man, because you gotta fit in the system, and I had a hard time fitting in the system for some reason. No,
I just feel very fortunate in meeting you, man, because I enjoyed watching you grow from that first movie and becoming who you are today. And just being that stealth director, that guy that just got his mind set, and there's no wavering. Like what you want. And I've had people all my life, from agents to managers, like, tell me what I want. And I sort of, I sort of went along with things until I got tired of it. And you never were that person. So that's what I'm saying, that like you had a lot of integrity, and which I didn't have in the beginning.
Well. You say that, but thank you, man. I appreciate that. And with that though comes a lot of headache and heartache because you are fighting a lot and sometimes too much. You know what I mean? Like that battle can get you really tired at times, you know, and that became difficult because you don't know. Like, there's times you look back and you go, God, well, how come I can jump from there to there? Like, there's certain parts that I look at the journey, right? Like, where we are at our age, we're both over 60 now, right? You know, and
well, I tell people I'm 37. I tell people I'm 37. So. I don't know. Prank call. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not 60. I'm 37.
So it was just like that was kind of, you know, I just felt, I don't know, at times you I don't know, I felt like you had a sense to be likable, and sometimes, as much as I feel I'm likable around people, but sometimes if I get a little too aggressive or too, like, then people are judging you, go, no, he could be a hothead or something, right? I always felt it was kind of like a wrong judgment, but it can come down on you when you're really fighting that hard for yourself. You know what I mean? Right. Don't you agree? I mean, you could get judged.
No, I totally agree. No, I totally do. And that's what I admired about you, man, is, you know, that, you know, when you did your movie, especially the reason, okay, I tell you when I realized this the most was when you did the documentary about your dad. Right. And that, you know, because that was a passion project, that was personal. And the way you did that and the way because I know you got approached, I think you got offered a couple of offers, if I'm not mistaken. And and we were talking about how you didn't accept any of them because you was like, well, I'm just going to get screwed on this in the end. And, you know, and I kind of did all of that, getting taken advantage of on the first project, but I'm not doing it on this one because this is my dad. And the reason, you know, you didn't take those offers because it was about your father. It was personal. And you just finally made up your mind, like, I'm not going to sell out. And you did it. And you got it done the way you wanted to get it done. And then the projects after that, you've kept the same, you know, idea about it. Like, you kept, like, this is how I'm going to do it, you know. And you've maintained that. So, that says a lot, you know.
Well, thank you, man. And my dad, you're right about that. The first one, Liar's Poker, because the distribution was so tough, and people don't know that independent films, it's hard to track that money when some distributor takes it over, and you're getting pennies, you know, from something that you put all the money and work into, raised it, and they're the first ones to get the money and then give you a little slice of the bread that's, you know, hard to eat with, right? And that really did, that really turned me another way. Kind of made a mission out of my life, you know, finding niche projects that I could also take from raising money to selling the movie on my own. But things have changed so much, right, man? So it's like...
the industry has, totally.
Yeah, it's totally. So it's a little different ball game, and it's been a while now, and I'm jumping again, and you're also jumping. So what do you feel about it today versus, you know, when we were in the thick of it, way different time? How do you feel about it?
Totally different game. Totally different. And I'm not just saying that as a cliche. It really is different. It's not like it used to be. You know, I was working at the studio at the time when, you know, scripts were being sold for $6 million.
Right.
And that would never happen ever again in life. And those days are gone. So the you know, the sort of uniqueness about the industry, sadly enough, is not there anymore. When I was there, you know, we had Michael DeLuca. He was our fearless leader. And it was a pleasure, and it was really exciting to be working for that studio when he was there, because Mike was just a renegade. And, you know, he did movies that the other studios weren't doing. And that made our little studio, you know, had people really, you know, look at us like, you know, these guys are a force. And we weren't Warner Brothers, but we were acting like we were, you know.
Right.
And
a lot of great movies,
a lot of great movies, a lot of franchises. Mike was bringing in Paul Thomas Anderson. He was bringing in, you know, Joe Esterhaus and, you know, Shane Black and all these guys. And, you know, it's like nobody was really doing that because nobody saw the potential yet. but Mike did.
Right.
And so, we were like the little studio that could. And so we were kicking ass. And, then we ended up doing the Lord of the Rings, which really kind of changed everything for the studio. That was sort of like the pinnacle. But the studio model is still there, but nobody's really following it because corporations came in and bought up all the studios, and they changed everything, and they just kind of shackled the executives. So nobody's really doing what Mike used to do back then, and it's kind of unfortunate. But the game has changed. Everything is figures and numbers, and this has to work in order for a studio to even move forward. It doesn't matter anymore if the script is good. That's the last thing people need to realize is I don't care if you've won 20 writing contests like that. Nobody cares, and that's the sad thing about it. Yeah. And and it feels like to me, especially just right now at this time, and you're even seeing it with Kevin Costner. He's putting his own money into stuff, right? And he's even saying, I have to, I'm sick of all these so-called billionaires that they say because, and I get it, maybe because that's why they're billionaires because they're not giving out their money, but I'll go all in all the time, and it's like you have to. If I believe in something, I'm going for it. And it shows you it's almost like it's going that way. I've even noticed that talking to a few people, some big producers on shows like Boardwalk Empire are raising their own money to do shows now because I think these streaming places are stopping some of their production because it's so expensive for them that you almost need filmmakers to go outside the system now, the ones that are experienced, to go make those series or those independent films. I think the independent film is going to come back because of that. I really do. Well, yeah, you're right about that. And even for the last 10 years or so, it has been a situation where you have to bring in your own money and do a co-financing deal with the studio or streamer because that's the only way they'll do it. And it has to be packaged. They want you to do all the work now. It used to be, they pick the actors and they cast it and, they pay the writer for the script and, they would put all the money up for the project. It's not like that anymore. Like you almost have to come in with 80% of the financing just to get their attention. And the first thing they want to know is, well, who's in this? Who's in it? And if you don't have a good package, they could care less. They could care less about it.
But see, I disagree on that part there, right there. Because I don't think the way things are so spread out anymore, you even look like the culture is so different. Not everyone's watching the same movies anymore. The audience is divided on what they may see out there. It's not like when Pretty in Pink and all those John Hughes movies that everyone was watching. You go to any American, they're like, yeah, did you see Pretty in Pink as a kid? You're a teenager? Like, yeah, I saw that movie. Everyone was watching the same movies at the time and coming out. It's so different with social media and all the different gadgets and cell phones. It's not the same going to the theater. So I almost feel like the stars having a name in it doesn't mean anything. It's really, do you have a really good story? And people are waiting to see new faces.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm kind of speaking more towards the studios really, but there are networks and streamers who will definitely, for instance, there's, I won't name any names, but there's a couple of streamers that we found out that they'll greenlight they'll do a movie if the actor has over 10 million Instagram followers. It's an automatic greenlight.
Wow.
And that's the kind of stuff we're running into. And what I'm talking about is it's sort of like what it used to be, where the actors, if you had a great package, that would help sell the project. But now it's like you're right. It's all about social media and Instagram followers, and that supersedes whatever popularity a big actor even has. If a social media person or influencer has enough followers, they can actually star in their own movie today.
Yeah, which is mind-boggling because it doesn't mean it's going to be good, right? It doesn't mean
no, they don't care. They don't care if it's good or not.
That's the thing. That's why people have to go outside the system now. The ones that know how to make movies have been making a living at it, Now, and that's why I think that's where it's going to live. Now, I don't know what that's going to turn into, but it's exciting knowing that it's coming down the road. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're doing, tell me a little bit about. Now, you're putting together packages, right? You have a partner, and tell me about what you got rolling today.
Well, after, all this time working in the industry as a writer and kind of realizing that the writer is kind of, they don't really care about the writer. And they're sort of disposable, and everybody is basically vying for the same project to either rewrite or to sell, or so you got like 50 writers fighting over one rewrite on a job. So I really got tired of that, and this is exhausting, and like you're giving your ideas for a project and they're basically stealing your ideas to give to the person they've actually hired already to do the job. So I got a little tired of that. So I partnered up with a former New Liner, friend of mine named Joseph Corey, who worked in distribution, and we came up with a different model on how to mitigate risks on movies. We got the attention of a securities firm out in New York, and they really liked the idea of what we were doing. So because of that, they helped us get interest from 3 big financial banks who wanted to get into this model, because ironically enough, banks are wanting to get away from these one-off movies they've been doing, because they're not making any money, and there's a potential to lose money. So they're actually trying to get away. One bank actually upped their financing model on independent films. Like, they won't even look at a movie that's under $25 million. They just won't even look at it. So the banks are really getting away from these one-offs. So they said to us, well, this is a perfect time that you guys are bringing this to us, because we're wanting to get more into doing slates and these kind of models where we're not losing money, or our risks are mitigated. So when you say so we kind of came in the perfect time.
When you're saying a slate, you're saying like a slate of movies so that they can balance off if some don't do well, that there's enough in there to work for them. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that, and also because the way we structured our model, they can see that a movie that they will end up financing has already been collateralized. So there's no risk as long as the collateral is there. And the way our model is kind of formed and situated, like, we bring all the collateral up front before, the bank would even release the money to us. So there's a lot of things to get to that point, and we check all the boxes first. But basically, there's nothing. The bank will, if they say, look, we've met A, B, and C, we'll fund your movie, because we can see that our money that we're going to basically fund is we don't stand the chance of losing anything, because everything's collateralized up front.
Gotcha. So when you say A, B, and C, are A, B, and C a definite? Is obviously C's got to be name actors or someone names that fit a certain studio. B has to be somewhere in like a studio actually giving you a guarantee on distribution, and A might be, the director, or what is it? Am I going down the right lines on that?
Yeah, everything's kind of interchangeable. It kind of depends on what the project is and what's needed. Because a lot of projects don't need actors. They might need gap financing, or they might need mezzanine. It really kind of depends on what the project is in need of on that particular project. So everything's not the same. So it just kind of depends on when they bring us a project, we have to look at it and go, oh, okay, you need actors, or you need this, you need that. So we have to kind of weigh everything out to see what's a good prospect.
Wow. Yeah. Well, see, that's exciting too. So there is change happening, and that still seems like you're under the gun of what you have to build A, B, and C for, and hopefully, but you're in control of making that movie.
Right. And also, this is work that has to be done anyway. So we're not asking the producers to do anything they're not supposed to be not doing anyway. They have to do these things to get the project going. So we're not asking anybody to go out here and do something crazy. These are things you have to do, to get your project to the point where, it's going to be taken seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're talking bigger money, though. You're talking $25 million versus people that go out there and do a $2 million movie or a $3 million movie,
Yeah, and it's not like we won't ever look at those budgets, because we're actually doing a movie in September that has a $3 million budget. So we will look at lower budgeted movies. Just kind of depends what the script is, if if it's something we connect with, and this particular project has a couple of names on it, but they're not big names, but it's enough to move the needle. And it's just A, B, and C boxes need to be checked. Yeah, but
gotcha. Yeah, and I feel like the other way is go do it yourself, have a great story, experience people making a movie, make a quality movie that is, people want to see the story. And if you have that, the names won't matter so much as long as that story works and the acting works and everything works within it. We've seen movies like that come up back in the day, right? That had no.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. But you got to have experience making those kind of quality movies. You know, you can't just go make some YouTube kind of video. You got to go to that level. Yeah. So I mean, those are the two places right now, and it's exciting though. And I think there's a lot of people that have made livings in Hollywood and in the system and haven't been used to jumping outside of it, but have to get uncomfortable and do that now if they want to continue. I believe that.
Well, I think this is an advantage that you have is because of your experience. And,
exactly.
You know,
exactly.
You know how to put these things together. Yeah. You don't need a studio per se to do it because you've done it, and you'll continue to do it because you know how to do it. But people that are just starting out, they don't know how to put these movies together. And, you know, they try to, shoot a movie on their Apple phone or whatever. That's fine. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I try to always tell people is that just be careful and really manage your expectations because, just be aware that distributors are looking for certain things in your project. And, and that's not to say that, you can make a final project and a product that's not worthy of them looking at it. But just always be aware that they're looking for several things and just, try to make sure that you got certain things in there if you're looking to sell to a distributor.
Exactly. And you can get away with some of those smaller movies, but they're only going to go on some platforms that people might not see. But you're right, to get to a really level where someone's going to view that and a streamer or whatever studio takes it seriously, it has to have that oomph, that quality that goes, okay, yeah, this plays for a lot of reasons, So it just matches. It matches what the big boys are doing, and you have to, because you're going to be competing against that. You know that, and that's the road you're going down, man. But it sounds great, Skelty. And we wrote a script together. You called me up and my wife and wrote our first kind of horror comedy, which I loved.
Oh yeah. We have big plans for that too. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's definitely on our slate of films that we're putting together, and can't wait to get that going because I think that's a franchise and
yeah. If you want to talk a little bit about it, we keep that low until it happens, right? Because it's not
what I can say is because I don't like giving an idea out yet, but I think it's a horror franchise, which I think because our foreign salesperson just got back from Cannes, and so he's aware of our project. So when he went out there, he basically went out there to look at horror films, and he says, "Man," he said, "I got to tell you, he said 85% of the horror movies that they were out there trying to sell all look alike. They all look alike." And he said, "That's why I like you guys' project is because it's different and it's not like everything else that they're trying to push out there." Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny, and it's got depth. It's just which is cool. We put all of our tools together, man, and you really brought the fun to the table on that, man, and in so many ways. And it was just a lot of fun to do that. We did that literally during like COVID, right? Like around that time. After it,
right towards the end of it, and
on the phone, going back and forth. We meet a couple times, but basically, conference calls.
Yeah, and I'll say this about your wife is that she needs to work for a studio or something because she gives the best notes, and she doesn't let nobody get away with nothing. And she called us out on me too on like a lot of stuff, and I appreciate her doing that because it made the script better. Because I could be lazy a little bit and just like, oh, it's okay, that works, and it doesn't work. And Christie just did not let me get away with that. So. I appreciate her.
We appreciate you too, brother, man. That was, and I tell you, she's going to be working with me. We're doing our film. We're co-directing, man. She's going to nail this, and can't wait for what we're doing that's coming up, man. So we're shooting our sizzle reel in the next couple of weeks, and then going on to get raise the funds to do our indie. And we're excited about it, man. We feel strong about our vision, man, just as you do about yours. So it's going to be exciting, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and hopefully we can do some more things together and write more. And
we will, man. That's for sure. And Skelton, it's so cool talking to you, man. I mean, we have, how long's it been now? You're talking 96, so I met you right around 98.
I think 98.
Yeah.
1998, yeah.
1998, so we're going close. We got about 20, was it 98? What would that be? 26 years. 26 years.
And we're both donning the gray hairs now, and
hey, and I want to say this, man. It's Father's Day, and this is, I just want to say it. I'm very sorry about Papa, man. Me and you are both pet fathers, and
oh yeah, I appreciate that.
Your bearded dragon, Papa, passed away, man, a couple weeks ago, and I know how much,
Yeah, 7 years, man. Yeah, it was so funny. I went to the movie with a friend of mine. Just, he wanted to cheer me up, so he takes me to the movies. And the first scene of this movie is a shot of a bearded dragon.
Oh, my God.
And I look at him, I'm like, you asshole.
Jesus, man.
Nice way of cheering me up.
Yeah, I know, but you look at the other way, maybe it's like, oh, Papa's saying something to you, man. Thank you for the ride,
Yeah, that's true.
Just sorry about that, man. And it's being Father's Day, I know it's a tough one, man. Because I know I'm going to be that way when our dogs, move on, so.
But you know what you got to do, man, and somebody gave me some great advice, is like, even though we know that day is coming, but what you got to remember is just the love and the joy that these animals give you while they're with you. That lives on forever.
Sure does, brother.
That lives on after they've gone. So, yeah, I just got to remember that.
Man. And, Yep. Skelty, I love you, pal. You're the best.
Love you too, brother.
And, I will talk to you soon. So let me know what happens. I'll do the same, man. And I'll be talking to you.
Okay, pal. Right, sounds good.
All right, bud. Love you, pal. See you, bud. Right. Take care.
Okay. You too.
This Santa moment is brought to you by Onesti Entertainment. In 1969, Ron Santo played in 160 games, had 575 at-bats, 29 home runs, 123 runs batted in, 96 walks, with a batting average of .289 and an on-base percentage of .384. That Santoid was brought to you by Onesti Entertainment.
Crackerjack.
Yo.
This call is being recorded.
Bobby Biittner.
Hello. Yo, what's up?
Hey, man, you're my crackerjack call.
Oh, you're kidding.
Popcorn and crackerjacks. What are you up to, man?
Well, just sitting here chilling with Gunner, my man.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
How you been?
Good. Just living the dream, I guess. Doing a little traveling. I'm sure you've seen. So, just talking to my brother. We're trying to plan a trip here in a couple weeks. So,
all right, man. I was thinking about you, for Father's Day, man.
Yeah.
So just thought about you, man. Wanted to call you and talk about your pops and yourself. And hey, I wanted to ask you, when did you grow up full time in Chicago?
Okay, so no. I was born in Texas.
Uh-huh.
And then I spent from 80, full time, 80 to 90 in Chicago. And then we had a house in Texas for a while, and then we would travel back and forth, So, and then we moved to Chicago, and then, of course, then he got, we stayed in Chicago, and then he got traded to the Reds and then the Rangers, and so we would bounce back and forth, during that time. And then he retired, and then we all moved to Iowa in 1990. My mom and brother and I moved. moved to Des Moines, then he moved back to his hometown, and of course my mom moved back eventually. So yeah, no, we didn't spend full time in Chicago. So
okay, so from 80 to 90, when were you born? What year?
73.
73. So you're 7 years old, and he played for the Cubs from 76 right to 80. How far in?
I think it was 80. I think it was 76 to 80, and then
okay.
The Reds 81, 82, and then Texas, 82, 83, and retired in 83.
Right. So you remember Wrigley at all a lot? I'm sure you do. Yeah, 7 for sure.
Oh, yeah, I remember Wrigley. I was on my home.
Right.
I mean, that's what we did in the summer, man. It was.
I know.
Soon as we were out of school, man, we were in the ballpark every day. It was Rick Russell, Bruce Sutter, Scotty Thompson, I think Tim Blackwell. We all rode together in the van at the ballpark every day.
Wow.
So, and then, we just rode in one of the vans because everybody kind of lived in Arlington Heights there that was the one year. I don't remember what year that was. And then that was when we were living in Texas, and then we'd come back and visit. We'd rent a house right there by, right there by the Arlington Racetrack, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So did you go to Barrington, like school in Barrington in Arlington Heights? Okay.
Yeah, I went to first grade in Arlington Heights for during we'd moved the last 3 months of the school year and go to wherever he was playing, and so but at that time we had our house in Texas, and then we moved to Chicago, and then the next year I started second grade in Barrington and stayed there until the middle of my junior year in Barrington.
Well, you did? Okay, so that's a long time. All right, so that's basically a lot of your youth there. And what was baseball like for you, Bobby? Like, is that something that you wanted to pursue?
Oh yeah, like we talked that one time. We always wanted to follow in our dad's footsteps.
Yeah,
I was a pretty good athlete. I played your travel ball, and we had a really good team. High school, high school as the first year, I broke a lot of bones, man. In my freshman and sophomore year, I had like 4 broken bones and had some medical deals. I had seizures and all that stuff.
That's right. Right. You told me that. Yeah. I look at you and I see the size, your hands and your dad. You had those hands, man, that could pound a baseball. That's right. You had some broken bones, unfortunate stuff that happened there. Yeah, talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was cool. I got back, came to Johnston, here, and then, I hadn't played baseball in a while, so I lost some stats, but I got to play my senior year, and, and of course, when I was, I think I was early 20s, I was a bullpen catcher for the Cubs for like 2 or 3 months, man, and so that was fun, and then
oh, cool. At the pro level?
Here at the AAA for the Cubs, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So
great.
I did that, but that wasn't, I was like, I got paid like $20 a game, and I go work my day job 7 to 3, and then go, catch, and then when they were out of town, I didn't have to do anything, So, but I only did that, like I said, for maybe 6 weeks or 2 months till the college kids were done, and then they'd bring in a kid from obviously with a lot more skills than I had. I got beat the heck out of. I'd go home bruised every day.
Were you a first baseman, or you did catching a lot?
I was first base, first base pitcher. Growing up, those were my 2 positions, and then senior, I just started playing around catching, and I caught a little bit, here and there, nothing fancy, but it wasn't my regular position, of course, So,
how was your pops on you as far as playing ball, Bobby?
He didn't really push it, but if I wanted, tips and all that, he'd give them to me. He'd work with me, and of course, them playing, having a career during baseball season, it was tough for him to make games, So
It's different that time too, man. Even your dad's era, it's close to my dad's era. It's just tough. It was like we were around baseball, but did we get coached much? We kind of just, did what everyone else did. You're playing enough baseball, you're coaching yourself by watching them,
Well, yeah. So, like, we would go do batting practice every day. We would run around in the field for, so it was, you were just, I guess you could say we could have probably been coached by a lot of people. I mean, if you really think about it. I mean, if we wanted it, but that's all we did. We lived and breathed baseball. I mean, that was our summer.
How many siblings you got?
Yeah, I got a brother, Tommy, who's 4.5 years older than me. So, he actually got to experience it, a lot longer than I did, as far as growing up.
Right.
But he didn't, after, high school, he kind of fizzed out on baseball. He was a big softball player, he loved playing softball until he was, in the 50s, he's 55 now. So, I mean.
Ronnie's the same thing. Yeah. Ronnie's a hell of a softball player too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gunner's not playing. Did Gunner play much?
He played high school and travel, and then same thing after high school, then pursue it. And, it's just, we talk about it now. It's kind of like, I mean, there's always that, well, hey, you're so-and-so's like Gunner, you're so-and-so's grandson, or, are you going to,
of course,
I mean, and so I always told him, I said, you should just go golf.
It's weird, Bobby. You see today, there's a lot more sons of ball players making it. And I just think it's because they're getting a lot more guidance than what we had.
There's data now, and then, the psychology behind it, and
right.
It's different atmosphere,
being a son of a ball player today, or even going like with the guys like, from that sons that have made it. Those guys are really, I think like they're aware, like, okay, man, we're in a good area here. This is something we should learn. And the dads know it too, because it's hard. If you don't, if you don't make it as a ball player, you're seeing what your pop did, and, it's tough to go into something else. And I just think there's more resources to help the kids understand, like you said, psychologically and definitely physically too. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
totally. And there's new techniques. There's new technology. There's this, there's that. And, I mean, living in the Midwest now, they got domes they can go play in the winter. And,
I know. I also thought like, I always wanted my dad to kind of like. Never really asked him, but I look back, I'm like, God, I wish he did teach me that mental side. But our dads were so different what they grew up with, right? I always say that. And just a different mindset, it's kind of hard to teach what this is like. This is your life. Was your dad, did he know like he was going to be a ball player? I think I asked him that. I think he said he did, right?
Yeah. You find out a lot about one when he passes away, but those are questions we were asking towards the end there.
Yeah.
He says, I knew. I pretty much knew in 8th grade. I think it was right around there, give or take. And I mean, his brothers. So he was the youngest of 12 kids.
Wow.
His dad passed away when he was 16. So he was basically raised by his brothers and his sister and older sister. And my mom always said, if you really wanted to play baseball, you would have had to drive to do it. And it took me a few years to figure that out. When I hit 25, every year I think, oh man, I wish I would have done this, would have done that.
Right.
But
yeah.
She's like, if you really would have, you would have done. So you probably didn't want.
Yeah. They're right. I think they're right in a way because I remember my mom's telling me, and they don't know much better what they're saying on that as far as like they're just being honest. And goes, at your age, your dad was, everyone was coming for him. It's like, shit, don't ruin the dream now, but it's the truth, right? It's just, people knew they were going somewhere. They knew they were going somewhere, and they had that hunger for it. Not that we didn't. I loved baseball, like no other. I loved it. Like, I mean, it's a passion of mine, and I think though if there was a different mindset early on through some crucial years, which I think are the, those teenage years.
Yeah.
That does a lot. You start getting caught in the social life of your friends and all that kind of stuff.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
So,
yep.
And you start not following your own kind of path of what we came from, which was unique. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, did you feel like, I wish I knew it was more unique than what I was living in? You know what I mean? Because you're just like, this is all I know. This is what I grew up into. You have maybe a different perspective of like, oh no, this is really special. Like, I knew it was special, but I just didn't know, like, of what it really took, the process. Yeah. Until you're later on, you're like, okay, damn.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just think of all the fun things we've done with, the after baseball life too, but like,
right.
It's, it's, you're right. It was unique when you're a kid. Sometimes I always tell people, like, I wish I could just hand you a thumb drive and I could download it for you to watch,
right.
Just the stuff you saw, like I always tell people, like, we used to run those ballparks like it was nothing, those signs which said you can't go beyond that point or this point.
Yeah.
I knew I could.
Right.
And so
right.
They see you walking in this door, and they're like, "Hey, man, what the hell?" And
That's it, man. Right.
You got to know, like, you got to know the security guards. We'd hang out with this one scout up in the stands, and of course, Yosh was like a second dad to us. I mean, he was just awesome. Yeah. And then I had Mick Kelleher. I used to have a locker next to him. He was kind of like my baseball buddy, and
right.
So yeah, you just, and then the people you ran into, you run over, and the next thing you know, you got like Goose Cotson's doing hat tricks with you, or you're running over to the Beach Boys or the Happy, all the Happy Days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. It's so true. I like what you said. Like, you got to walk through that. You can't. No, yeah, I can go in there, and that mindset, kind of screws you up a little bit when you can't go through those doors anymore. And you're like, where's the world now? Because that was my world. I mean, that is a tough. Like, I didn't think about how hard that was till later in life. You really start to, and especially after my dad passed away in 2010, I really start to analyze his life. And I'm sure you're doing the same thing with your dad. You start to go into like, man, how'd they get through that and that and this and that? And you start to feel like, wow. And then yourself, you can look at your stuff too, of stuff that you've gotten through a lot like them, but in a much different road, So it's good to go back there, man.
Yeah, and that goes back to psychology, where like, you'll be riding the school bus and somebody's like, oh, your dad sucks. He struck out last night. I'm like, okay, sure, and then,
right.
I don't know. You hear shit like that. People yelling in the stands, and baseball coaches. Sometimes like, "Oh, you're gonna be the next Larry Biittner," or you think you're hot stuff because your dad plays baseball.
Right. Yeah.
I had teachers that were like that. I had a few teachers that like, damn, they don't like me. I don't want.
Yeah.
It was just there's maybe a little jealousy. I don't know. I'm not a.
No, there is that, and maybe if you're more aware of it, like, mostly it was positive, right? Especially when you're around your pops.
Oh my God!
Stuff. Yeah, you don't know, but you're right though. It got negative in college. I won't kid you. As you go up the ladder a bit, it gets a little bit more negative and a little bit more judgy, and for many different reasons. But maybe you could have handled the negative shit a little better, rather than like, it almost became like weird kind of blows that you weren't ready for. That was the difference of that kind of stuff. Just having a little bit more of an edge, because our fathers had the edge because they had to fight through everything to get to where they went. And maybe we didn't have to fight as much growing up, but the fight came later. And I think that's the transition that the Suns are making today. That kind of transition.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, it's now it's, I think if you had me do this call a year ago, I probably would have a hard time doing it, but,
right.
And then now you look at it and it's just like, wow, okay, it's pretty much gone, I mean, there's not much, it's not like we're getting calls to go to the Cubs camp anymore, You know, I mean, there's a few perks here and there, but but not. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, man. And yeah, but it's almost like a world that is drifting farther and farther away. And it's one of the reasons, Bobby, I have this podcast to go back there, you know, and reunite with a lot of people. And then even, you know, people like yourself who have gone through the similar path of growing up in it, you know, being born into baseball and at a high level, the highest level, you know, and it's good and it feels good. You know, that's one thing I could say at 60, you know, I'm older than you. It gets better when you hit that stuff and start to go back there, because it's fond memories and it's who you are. It's who we are. Yeah. And then the people that we met during that, there's a lot of cool relationships that are still out there and their memories of our fathers, you know, which is beautiful. So, yeah. Yeah. So
I know it's like, yeah, you're right. You know, you just, there's a transition, you know, and now that transition from baseball, like the baseball chapter is closing for me, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's still open, but you know, I mean, but like it's more like that story's coming to an end, you know, and
oh man, yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, okay, you know, hey, but you know, it's kind of nice, you know.
Right.
You know,
right,
at the same
man.
time, you know, you get 20, you know, what? I'm 50 years old. You got 50 years of baseball. You know. So
yeah,
and I get it. I say this. I don't.
It's never going to leave us, Bobby. I got to tell you that, though. You know.
No, it's not. I know.
No, it's not, man.
I know.
As much as you know, I get it, man. And I got to say this. About your dad, because he was my coach a couple years at the fantasy camp, and you really got to know him there. What just the coolest guy, the most laid back dude. And he just had a certain way about him, man, that was funny and cool personality. But you guys are just literally, he's just such a laid back dude. And where did that come from?
You know, I think
big family.
He was just always a humble, you know, real stoic. He was happy to have what he had, and you know, I mean, you know, I think I found somewhere along the line, you know, like a college scouting report. It basically said, you know, he's poor, he'll sign. I feel like my dad was just happy to be there, you know, and
yeah, for sure, yeah,
you know, and
grateful,
you know,
yeah,
just a good old fashioned, you know, Iowa farm boy, you know. I mean, he was just a laid back guy, you know, and.
And he could hit.
And you know, I heard that a lot from a lot of people. You know, like I don't know, like Ron Cougar. Oh man, I love your dad. You know, and it was just. You know, I heard from a lot of people. Just like sitting at the camp, especially. You know, God, man, I love hanging out with your dad. He's just such a cool guy. You know, and and so you know, that was cool. You know, and of course I had that growing up too. You know, I mean,
of course.
You know, I mean, it was cool. It was. You know, I mean, like when he was with the Reds, he's sitting there in Florida, you know, in spring training with, you know, Johnny Bench, and you know, like we had this one townhouse we rented one year. It was like this cool little area. I was in Cincinnati, and we got to know the neighbors there. You know, we're still lifelong friends because of that. You know, so we got neighbors throughout the country.
Right, exactly.
Our friends, you know, and so yeah, you know, I mean, he just kind of just a good old Iowa boy. You know, that's the only way I can say. Boy, you open up the Pandora's box here.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that, man. I didn't mean to do that. You know, I
like it. No,
you know,
cool,
it's just going back. I'm just going back with you, man. I thought about you for Father's Day, and happy Father's Day yourself too, brother. And you know, I just wanted to call and say hello and reminisce about our pops and see how you're doing. And you doing all right? Everything good with you? Sounds like
it. My man, everything's good. Like I said, I got you know, I'm pretty lucky. I got a job that allows me to work remote, and
great.
You know, I can kind of got the freedom to travel, and so that's kind of my new. You know, it's funny you bring that up because I'm trying to do the same thing for my kid that my dad did for me to give me that uniqueness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I like to grab him and travel and take him places, and so you know, because I got to do that growing up, and.
Well, you ever come out here, man, to California, you got to look me up, man. Love to have a beer, and good talking to you. All right, pal. And
all right, buddy.
Hit me up anytime, pal. All right?
Yeah. Happy Father's Day to you, too, and thanks for calling, and, yeah, I'll hit you up.
You got it.
Man. We'll talk again.
All right, Bobby. Do that for sure. All right.
All right.
See you, pal. Great talking with you. See you, buddy.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our show. Special thanks to our cool crackerjacks, Scott Nelson, Jim McCauley, Debbie Foley, Sherry Matarisi, Terry O'Brien, Gary Tallman, Anne-Marie Pascule, Jim Muleschlegel, Liz Rutherford, and Mac McPhillamy.
This show is made possible because of all of them and all of our subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to support the show and be a cool crackerjack yourself,
Come on, be a cool
subscribe on our
crackerjack.
Patreon page. Click the link below this episode, or go to the Patreon tab on our website, www.peanutspopcornandcrackerjacks.com.
And remember to click the follow button for next week's episode. Come on, go ahead and click it. And leave a review. Come on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
And don't hesitate
Leave
to
a
write.
review.
Give us suggestions. Tell us how you're liking the show. Email jeff.ppcpodcast@gmail.com.
For my closing quote, you got to be ready for a fastball. Ted Williams.
Toodaloo.
SantoFilms.com, the place to buy This Old Cub DVDs, posters, and This Old Cub t-shirts. Get yourself one now at SantoFilms.com.